Yeah, I mean,
But yeah,
especially now too, economic
yeah,
climate,
I
way
know,
less deals are happening. It's
I know.
crazy times.
Sales reps get panicky and yeah,
Of course they
yeah,
do, because their managers won't leave them alone.
yeah. Damn managers.
I know, right? Well, that's a good segue. We can
Okay.
go ahead and get into this thing.
Yeah, this whole person Neil's like gonna have to like. He's like, what the
They
fuck are
just
these
cut it
people
off.
talking about? Like,
They know that for the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I'm just going to shoot the shit because this is way more, this is my vibe.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I don't like too serious, but I do think this topic is like super timely with
yeah.
everything going on. Um, so we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Thanks for joining. Excited to have you on. Honestly, I've been looking forward to this one for a while. I
I
know
know.
it's got like delayed a couple times.
I know.
Been looking forward to this one for a while. Um, Stephanie, thanks for joining. I'll let you introduce yourself first, and then we can kick off our topic.
Sure. So I'm Stephanie Middaugh. I am the founder and CEO of Phoenix GTM Consulting. I've been doing enablement for I think like 6 years now, like 6 or 7 years. Co-founder of the Enablement Squad
Ooh,
Slack community. I'm all over LinkedIn. I don't know. Like I'm kind of an open book. When people are like, introduce yourself, I'm like, I never know what to say.
I know you
Um,
say so many things.
I,
I
I'm
like
based in
hiking.
Utah.
I like.
Yeah. I don't like hiking, and this is like the worst. I'm based in Utah, and everybody's like, "Oh, the snow is amazing, and like the hiking is amazing." I do neither of those things, so I am a complete poser when it comes to like being in Utah. I hate bugs and I hate snakes. And I had like back surgery, like scoliosis, and so I have like bars in my back. So like skiing, snowboarding
Bad news.
terrifies me. Like if I
Hmm.
fall, like I might legitimately like hurt myself. So I'm a complete poser when it comes to like living in Utah.
That's funny.
But yeah,
See, that's a great introduction. That's how most people should be introducing themselves. I think
there. I'm
that's
a
what I want to
poser.
hear. That's what our viewers want to hear. It's
Just take the snippet.
humans. I love it. I love it. Well, thanks again. I'm excited. Topic we've talked about this. Voices of Enablement is our theme, if you
Yeah,
will. And what we really want to talk about is just create space for enablers like yourself who've been doing this for a while at several different places. You're now consulting, so you see a lot more of kind of a breadth of what enablement looks like and what the needs of enablement are.
yeah.
But in the current economic headwinds, it's times are tough, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Support functions are the functions that are getting cut the most.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, enablement is seen as kind of that support slash cost center in a lot of ways
Yeah.
in a lot of organizations. And so we want to provide this space for people like yourself to tell us, how do we elevate enablement in our own organization so that we aren't the first people to go and that we're
Yeah.
proving ourselves as a strategic function and much less of a support function. So
Yeah.
with that said, first question, I just want to kick it off.
Okay.
How do you elevate enablement in a function or in an organization that you go into as a strategic function
Yeah.
and not as a support function?
Sure. So I'm gonna like I'll lay out the ideal state and then I'm gonna probably talk
Perfect.
about like the reality of the situation here.
Perfect.
Um, Ideal state is get yourself as close to the decision maker or the decisions that are being
Mm,
made in your organization as possible. So that means if you can find a role where you're reporting directly to the CRO, if you're reporting to directly of like VP of sales or something like that, the further removed that you are from the decision maker, the less likely it is that enablement is going to have kind of like it's like a game of telephone. So like
so
CEO
true.
tells the CRO, tells the like head of RevOps or like whatever. And I've been under a couple of different structures, and to be honest with you, all of them have worked fairly well. I've reported to a VP of sales, I've reported under revenue operations, I've reported under the CRO, and I've enjoyed reporting to the CRO the most because I am like it's literally like I'm right there. Like when they make
Yep.
decisions, when I'm asking about priorities, like there's no game of telephone that happens. However, like alignment with revenue operations can be hugely beneficial for organizations too, especially larger organizations. So how do you elevate enablement overall is like one, get closer to how when where the decisions are being made and by whom.
Yep.
And then two, make sure that the programs that you're putting together are actually tied to business objectives. So the struggle that enablement has is that more often we're a
Yep.
support function at like we just love to help people. And this is we get our sales leaders and our sales reps coming to us from one side being like, we need this thing, we want to do, whatever it is. Then we've
Hmm.
got leadership coming from the other direction being like, no, ignore that. We want to do this. But then we can't get buy-in from the sales reps because they're not in alignment with the leadership. Like we're in this weird in between kind of stage. So when you
Yeah.
are putting together programs and initiatives, make sure that they are tied to a business objective. And if you look at it from a different angle. It can be very frustrating, one, to be pulled in multiple directions. But if you switch your angle a little bit, it actually gives you the opportunity to be a translator almost between executive leadership and your frontline managers and like sales team of like, I'm hearing this from the field. I'm hearing
Mhm.
this from you as a leader, like ship team. This is what I think a good compromise between those two items might be. And that's where I think that enablement can really start kind of like elevating everything. So like make sure you've got hard hitting data. Like that's what executives care about more than anything else. It cannot
100%.
be I had 20 people attend my training and they got like 90% on their LMS scores or whatever. Like that's fantastic. Yay. However, if I'm a CRO or like a CEO, I'm looking at like, I mean, did you actually increase sales velocity across our pipeline? Did you actually increase win rates? Are we getting more qualified leads in the pipe? Like that's what the higher level executive leadership cares about the most. I
Mhm.
will underline all of this to say sometimes it's still not enough. So I lost my job in February, and for me, like personally, I felt like I had done all of those things. I was in close alignment with my leadership team. I was tying my initiatives to business objectives and everything. And at the end of the day, like I still got cut, and it sucked and it hurt
Yeah.
and like whatever. But so you can do everything humanly possible to protect kind of your team. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't, and like you just kind of have to like be okay with that. But if you do all of those things and you kind of like build your resume along the way, when something terrible does happen, then you can take that to another company and be like, look at all the amazing things that I did. And this is how I impacted the company. This is how I impacted revenue. This is, what it kind of looks like. So cover your ass
Yeah.
always.
Yep.
But at the same time, like do what you can within your organization and like shit happens, right? Like at the end of the day, like stuff just, and it is what it is. But you can do, like, you can go to bed at night knowing like I did everything that I could humanly possibly do in order to like make the impact on the organization.
So freaking good. There's so many things you just said that I want to dig into. I'll stick to three.
Okay.
First is the top down kind of identification that you
Yeah.
just described.
Yeah.
These initial I heard somebody say this one time, more about sales, which is my second point, but projects and priorities and initiatives come from the top down, right?
Yep.
Like Joe Schmo in the organization can have his own project, but like if it's not coming from leadership, it's going to get deprioritized.
Yep.
So aligning to those projects and initiatives that are top down and helping to move the needle on those projects, I think is such a good call out because that is where the value will be shown across the organization, not just maybe within a handful of people.
Yeah.
Love that. So good. It is interesting though. You said something, and I've been seeing this consistently. Product marketing and enablement, marketing in general and enablement typically report to two different people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how does that relationship with C levels being in different places
Mm-hmm.
make it more difficult for an enabler like yourself who wants to have that kind of collaborative relationship with people in marketing, but
Yeah.
they're maybe on a different initiative or project than, the CRO, for example? Describe that relationship a little bit to me because
Yeah.
that's something to me that I really want to explore further,
Yeah.
kind of moving forward through the year.
It's been, I think, product marketing and enablement have typically, like historically, have so much overlap. Usually product marketing is brought
Mhm.
in first, and then
Yep.
enablement is brought in secondly in organizations. It's just the maturity of
I see
how
it too.
things are built.
Yep.
And typically product marketing is required to do
Enablement.
enablement, like quote unquote enablement before enablement comes in. Then
So
enablement
good.
is brought in and product marketing can sometimes feel like their toes are getting stepped on because they're like, well, hold up, like that's what I was doing, that's what my role was, like what's going on. And like there can
Yep.
often be a tension between the two. And you're right in that, like, if you've got a CMO and you've got a CRO and they're reporting separately up to exactly like C-suite executive leadership, sometimes they get different priorities. And I've run into this in organizations before where it's like both of us are running in parallel directions and there's not like a whole lot of overlap between the two of us. And frustrations can breed as a
Yeah.
result of that, like tension can breed, and it becomes kind of a finger pointing game of I need this from product marketing. Well, enablement's not doing the things that we want them to do, so we're just going to go ahead and like launch it out to the company. Then enablement gets pissed
Yep.
off because they weren't aware that things were happening. So like all of these things are normal problems to have, because product marketing is also like their goal is to support the organization. Like both of us are trying to do the
Yep.
exact same thing, but tend to kind of like get different directions or like whatever it is. Literally what I found to work the best is like when we've got this like silent feud happening between the two like
Happens all the time.
between the two organizations, like a legit conversation. And I've had sometimes like leaders can just like perpetuate the issue, and I've had team members basically just kind of be like, okay, well, I'm going to connect with this other like PMM kind of like at the base level, and we're going to create this collaboration, and then things start like bubbling up. I've had the situation where sometimes we have to bring in our leadership on the same call to like iron things out and like find out. And more often than not, what I found is that like there's just a miscommunication of
Yep.
product marketing gets one initiative, enablement's getting a different initiative. We're pointing fingers at each other because we're not working at it. But at the end of the day, it actually is like stemmed from the top. So like that's the piece that more than anything else, like product marketing and enablement should work hand in hand. It can be a challenging relationship.
Yep.
Absolutely, it can be. But at the end of the day, like you need to look to your senior leadership and be like, you guys need to get your shit together and like come together as like a C-suite and figure out like where are we going? What are we doing?
Yep.
That's the direction. Like row in the same direction. And sometimes you have to kind of like have a come to Jesus moment with
Yep.
executive leadership and be like, you guys are causing more friction between the two of our like things. Where do we find that common ground? Where can we find the compromise?
It's so true. I want to do a whole series. I'm going to have you back on this because this is a topic that I think just, it doesn't get enough
Oh yeah.
radio time. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't, like it's
Yeah.
just not talked about a lot. And I consistently run into it all the time because
Yeah.
product marketing will buy GTM Buddy, enablement will buy GTM Buddy, but they never are together.
Yeah.
And so it's this like contentious relationship that I even have to battle, which is interesting.
Yeah.
The second point I was going to make on your first little bit was you kind of sound like a salesperson, but internally, right? Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you are managing stakeholders
Yep.
and trying to prioritize and tie your objectives with their objectives or their initiatives so that they can get approval and they can get the validation that you need. Is that fair to say?
1,000% it is.
Crazy.
And it didn't dawn on me until, I mean, probably recently, just how similar, like we are quite literally running our own sales cycle internally with stakeholders because we need to do proper discovery. We need to find out if the priority is actually qualified or not. We need to find out if we have budget. We need to find out if we have like champions internally that can kind of like go to bat for us. We need buy-in from all of these different kind of stakeholders across the business. Then we actually need to like, once we close the deal, right, which is just basically like, yes, go and do the thing. Then we need to like actually deliver and assess and like make sure that we keep our customers happy basically at the end of the day. I forget who it was yesterday. I saw it on LinkedIn, but somebody posted basically they were running Challenger, like they were an enablement professional. They were running the Challenger kind of methodology in their enablement practice. Like that was like their whole like process. And I was like, geez, holy shit. Like that's
that's crazy.
thing. Yeah. And absolutely. I tell this to like everybody, like I never held a bag. Like I was never a seller. My way into sales enablement was from sales operations, like deal desk.
Cool.
Now I'm like obviously kind of like selling as a result of kind of like my consulting business, but the similarities between like how I was doing this like internally and these are the things that we have to do. Like it almost makes me kind of want to like work up a sales,
it's
like
pretty crazy.
An enablement like sales process. Internal
like
kind of.
You got to build a business case. This like whole sales enablement charter thing that we see all the time. Like that is kind of a business case, right? That is
100%.
Our value proposition and our business case, and this is how we're going to do it, and these are the objectives and how we're going to measure it and all that kind of stuff. It's crazy how similar they are.
Absolutely.
You describing it is really the first time I've actually like put it kind of two and two together. It's crazy. The last thing I was just going to say is you kind of just have to give yourself some grace too, right? Like you just mentioned it perfectly a minute ago. You can do, and sales is the same way. You can do everything perfect and still not get the validation or the outcome that you wanted, that you expected. So I think that should just be a theme for everything and everybody. Just a little self-compassion, I think, can go a long way.
100%.
Really good advice. Really good advice.
Yeah.
Let's kind of move on to the next one. I'm thinking about this, current economic headwinds we talked about a little bit, and that obviously changes how enablement should be facilitated internally, right? Because I think when times are, going strong and you have these massive new classes coming in of new reps, a lot of your time, I'd imagine, is spent on onboarding and reducing ramp and all that kind of good stuff. Probably not happening anymore, right? Most organizations are not hiring. They're seeing a lot of people go out the door. So how, during this time, what is revenue enablement's focus? How do you prove to an organization the value of revenue enablement during this type of kind of economic headwind?
Yeah. So if organizations are just pigeonholing enablement into like you onboard like new reps and like that's your role, like yes, it is like a big function. You're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing your like team a disservice. So like we're not just trainers, we're not just like onboarders. Like, yes, that's usually the first focus for anybody because you need to like grow your business, you need your sales reps to be
Yep.
as productive as possible. But like, if you stop and think about like all of the elements that go into onboarding, all of those things should really be reinforced continuously with your sales team. Are
Yep.
they running a correct sales process? Are they using your tools effectively? Are they actually doing, like, do they have the sales skills that they need in order to kind of like do the stuff? So one thing that I've always kind of like gone back on is like once onboarding kind of stalls, take all the things that you're training your new hires on, take those and use them in like an everboarding kind of program and just be like, okay, we're going to train on these skills and we're going to kind of like master those. You went through onboarding with us, maybe not before like enablement was in place. So at the end of the day, we kind of, more often than not, I have to come in and break bad habits and
Yep.
then create new, better habits based on like what
Hmm.
we actually need the reps to be doing, which is incredibly difficult. So like take all of the things that you're creating for onboarding and switch them into like just shift your focus on who your audience is. It's not new hires, it's existing members of the team. Like how do we actually thread that through? The great news is when, fingers crossed, your company actually does start onboarding again, all of that content that you've gotten created for existing reps, like right back into your onboarding
True.
program. And then everybody has the same thread throughout their entire kind of employee journey with you. That's what you like, that's what you should be doing. And I think it's kind of a misconception of like, oh, well, we have to do something completely different if we're not focusing on onboarding. It's not true at all. And in reality, what I started doing at my last role was because priorities were shifting so frequently, and we'd get to like the tail end of a project or something and be like, nope, we're scrapping that and we're like switching and we're like moving on to something else. Instead of focusing on specific projects, I was instead high level, like umbrella skill development. So if we've got a new product release that's coming out, but it keeps getting like pushed down the line, like it tends to kind of do,
Yep.
maybe I need to focus on value selling instead. And then I just like piece in the product as like after the
Good
fact when
advice.
it's ready, instead of being like, we're going to train on this product release and we're going to show you how to sell it and like value sell it. No, 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 no. Like start with the skill first, and then you can like interchange the projects underneath that skill. That way you're not getting whiplash kind of across when priorities are changing because everything in the market is changing so fast and frequently.
Hmm. So true. Million dollar question right here, though. I think every enabler probably has this question, like, how do I make my reps want that?
Oh,
Yeah.
I almost spit out my drink just now.
Right. It's an interesting relationship. We talked
Yes,
about product marketing and enablement, but the most interesting relationship is between
yes,
sales and enablement.
yes, yeah.
And I recently just for fun, I'm in this sales community. There's like 200,000 sellers in it, and I went and I just searched in the like global search bar enablement. I just wanted to see
Hmm.
what people were saying.
Yep.
It was not pretty. It was not, as you'd expect, right? As you'd
Yep.
expect.
Yep.
So most sales reps, this is not an
Sure.
accurate portrayal of what it is, but most sales reps feel it's more compliance. Like enablement is just like
Yep.
another form of compliance. Like I did it in onboarding, and then I gotta take another course 6 months later to prove that I still know this shit. Like it feels
100%.
very much like compliance. So how do you break that?
Hmm.
You're talking. I love everboarding is I think the number one topic of 2023, and I think it should be.
Yep.
How do you make everboarding more accessible is maybe the
Hmm.
right word, or like
Yeah.
I don't want to say just in time because that's a
Consumable.
little trendy, but like
Yeah.
yeah, like how do you make it where a rep doesn't feel like they're leaving to go into this like compliance driven class
Yeah.
on their calendar, but like they're getting training and enablement while they're working?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
do you do that?
Good question. So like one of the enablement hackathons that we had last year, I had some super sweet young enablement professional that was like, how do I make my reps take my training? And I was like, you can't. Like
Yeah.
there's literally like I'm sorry, and like if you need to go cry in the bathroom, I completely understand because I've been there. But like you can't do it. And it's,
No.
you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Like, I mean, you could come up with any number of things. So like at the end of the day, like one, disconnect yourself from the idea that like I like why aren't my reps like taking my training? Like they have to do it. They have to do it. Like if you get 100% completion, that's a freaking miracle. Like it
Yeah.
just like I aim for like 80% completion. You will always have those grumpy sales reps who just like they know it all. They've been
Usually
around
the
the
lone
block.
wolves. Yeah.
I've run into this a lot, especially if I come into a more tenured sales team. They look at like
Yeah.
little old me who's like in my like early 30s and they're like, "Oh, honey, like sit down." And it's not like a sexist thing by any means, but it's like, "I know what I'm doing. Like, what
Yeah.
can you teach me?" Fine. Like, and maybe I can't teach you anything. You teach me something, and maybe I'll go and train the other reps on like how to do it. So like there's that piece of things. I
That's a
love
good
to meet
point.
with the grumpy sales reps who are just like against everything. Um At the end of the day, though, like I think one of the things that we started noticing at my last organization was like more often than not, the training is it's like an hour-long LMS course. It's an hour-long Zoom call that like you're just talking at the
Well,
reps and like lecturing. It's like a global kickoff where they come and they're like sitting and just kind of like melting in their chairs for like 6 hours of
yep.
workshops
Lunch and
potentially.
learns.
Yes, exactly. And
Awful.
like none of those things work. And one of the
Nope.
things that we like my team at my last organization kind of found, we ended up taking over the weekly sales team meeting, which prior to that was basically just sales leaders coming on and like doing kind of like round the horn. This is what's coming from product marketing. This is what's coming from like sales ops. And like it was just more lecture basically.
Yeah.
We came in and like took it over. The gal on my team, Melissa Regan, who is absolutely phenomenal. She's over at Dialpad now. She came up with this brilliant plan to basically like she had little sections. It was a 45-minute call, but usually she was able to do it in 30 minutes every single week.
Perfect.
And we had like little sections of everything. She would scrape Gong basically for best
Smart.
practices that related to the initiatives we were focused on for that quarter. So it wasn't like
Hmm.
out in left field. And she would break like little Gong snippets basically into this is what they're doing, this is how they're doing it, and like whatever. So it was bite-sized learning. It was immediately actionable to the
Yep.
teams. They were actually like taking away pieces that they could like go and like do. So like at the end of the day, I think we got a lot of really great feedback from those sessions once we kind of like shifted the agenda, which was phenomenal. And I think that's what you need to do is you need to start, especially post COVID. Most of us are kind of like working
Reps.
from home.
Remote.
Some of us are doing the hybrid thing, which is weird. We've got so much shit like just like floating around, like everything. You can't expect an adult brain to be able to learn the exact same way. Like TikTok has taken over and like you're absorbing content like so
Yes.
fast on everything
Micro
else.
learning.
Exactly. It almost needs to be like whatever the level below micro learning is or like above like it needs to be that
Yeah.
because there's so much information kind of floating. You've got
So
dogs
true.
running around, you've got kids that are like homesick from school and like whatever. Oh well, I still need to do this assessment. Guess what's not going to happen? Like it's just
Yep.
not going to work. So like meet the reps where they are and then identify like who is your audience. Is it the folks that actually want to sit down for like the lecture for like the hour? Great. Is it the folks that like the younger like kind of like less experienced reps who just want kind of like that quick kind of bite-sized learning? And you don't have to like reinvent the wheel for every element of things. Do a training like on Zoom for the people that actually want to listen, like that's the way that they learn is like lecture style. Great. Record that, throw it into like an AI transcription, download it, throw that into your LMS for the people who like the self-paced kind of stuff. Grab little snippets of whatever and it like chunk out that piece. It's one recording with your subject matter expert that you can turn into 3 or 4 different kinds of ways to learn for your team and serve it up to them in a number of different kinds of ways and see what kind of response you get. I think the way that we're approaching it more often, and I've fallen into this bucket a lot of times, is just like you have to conform to the way that I'm presenting the training. There's no
Yep.
ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we cannot do that anymore. Like it's just not feasible. It's not like scalable. It's not anything. So like think outside of the like break the damn box. You have to try
So
different
good.
things.
Yeah. I don't mean to plug GTM buddy on this at all, but that's what we talk about a lot is enablement 1.0 was make the reps adapt to your system or your program.
Yes. Yes.
Enablement 2.0 has to be you go adapt to the sales reps program or systems.
Yeah.
Has to be. It
Yeah.
absolutely has to be. Because I love your point about everybody learns a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just even about like full course learning, right? I think we think about training and, like we talk about sales methodologies or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, there has to be this big course and seminar and we have to break it down and then put it in pieces. And then it's like, yeah, that's definitely part of it. But what about what question should I ask on this discovery call with this healthcare company
Right.
right now?
Right.
I don't know, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm 6 months into the job. I've never talked to a healthcare company before. I don't really know what I should ask right now. Or where
Mm-hmm.
does that information live?
Yeah.
Right? That should
Give
come
me
from
an
enablement. But how do you get
example.
that to
Yeah.
me? Right? Those are the things like I need that like in the moment, practical bit of information that I can put into practice right there
Yeah.
in the next 5-10 minutes and then kind of forget about it. Right. Cause like I'm
Yeah.
on to something else.
Yeah.
That is where I think the gold is. I love
Yeah.
how you just kind of described that. It's perfect.
I've heard like a couple of like old school, like if I
Yeah.
can use that, like old school leaders have said like I don't want to just like serve it up on a silver platter for my reps. I hired professionals, I hired tenure people, we pay them a lot of money. They should be able to figure this out. They should be able to piece things together. And it's like maybe yes, maybe you're right, maybe they should, But in the world that we live in right now, in like all of the things that sales reps have to manage on a daily basis,
Yeah.
it's just not like it's not right to expect that kind of stuff from them. So like, sure, what's wrong with us serving it up to them on a silver platter if they do it and it actually turns into like real stuff? Like,
Yep.
why are we forcing them to like put the pieces together and assume stuff when maybe like maybe they assume wrong and then well, shit, now I have to come back and I have to break that habit and build a new one and whatever. Like when in reality, I could just come to you with the solution of like, here you go. And there's an element to like, there's one thing that I've chatted with a couple of other enablement reps. Like we need to train like sales reps on like how to think critically. I think that's the piece that like misses more often than not is like just
Yes.
thinking more in like a critical kind of manner. If I give you the tools and I serve you up kind of the stuff, now let like the teach a man to fish kind of scenario, let me teach you how to take that and apply it to your own routine and your system
Yes.
and your process, like whatever, instead of trying to get you to conform to any number of like things. There will always be process that reps need to follow,
Yep.
but at the end of the day, like where can you find this is how we're going to title it, just like find the compromise, find the middle ground. How do you find that middle ground between like
True.
you and your reps of like you need to do this thing, but you can also kind of like these are the areas that you can wiggle in and make your own.
We could talk. We're like closing in on time, and I'm bummed because we literally could talk about this. We could have like 6 different series on this topic
Yeah.
alone because as a career long sales rep now, being so involved in the enablement community, I have this like fortunate perspective that not a lot of people get to have, which is I
Fair.
see the sales rep side and I now see the enablement side really, really clearly.
Yeah.
And like I see where it needs to go, but I'm like, I don't know how to get there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But what you're describing is exactly how a sales rep would want it, right? Which is I don't necessarily need you to serve it up to me on a silver platter, but like I definitely don't need to go connect the dots for it myself. Because if
Right.
I have to go and connect the dots for it myself and start digging around through all kinds of stuff and ask a bunch of people, like it's just not going to happen
Yeah.
because I'm busy doing other stuff.
Right. And your sales leader is going to come to you and be like, what the hell have you been working on for
Right?
the past like 2 days? I haven't seen you make any calls or like emails or like anything. Well, I've been trying to piece together this methodology and
Literally.
this, like whatever. Like be like, get on the phone.
Exactly. It's
So
so
like I
true.
get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's end with one last question. I've asked this a couple times, and I just think your perspective would be able to provide like a really cool response, which is a lot of new enablers, not new, a lot of enablers are moving into new roles, right? Because of the rifts and things like that.
Sure.
So you have all these people who are going into organizations that maybe either have a very mature enablement program, but more than likely don't have a mature enablement program yet and are starting to invest because, oh, we need to take advantage of what we have. We need to take advantage of
Yeah.
the people that we have. And so I need enablement to come in and level us up.
Yeah.
If you were to give a couple pieces of advice to that person coming into that business,
Mm-hmm.
where would you tell them to start?
Um, I am a big fan of coming in and having a lot of conversations first and foremost, and I need them
Mm,
across the organization. So whenever I come into a brand new company, I always ask for a couple of things. I want meetings with executive leadership if I can get them. I want meetings with frontline managers, and I want
mm.
meetings with sales reps. And most of the time, they give me the sales reps or they put me in contact with the sales reps who like everything is like sunshine and roses and it's all
The tool
amazing.
adopters. Yeah.
Yes, and like everything is
Yeah.
perfect. No, no,
Yeah.
no. Like I want a little bit of that, and then I want the grumpy sales rep who's like grumbling to himself in the corner and like, like
Ready to
that's.
leave.
I want to talk to, yeah, I want to talk to them, and I want to find out what's stopping you, what's preventing you, like what are the roadblocks, what's happening,
Mhm.
like where. Tell me, show me the poop. Where is the dirt underneath the rug? Like I want to see all the skeletons in the closet. Like I'm using a lot of metaphors in this
It's good.
recording, but
Metaphors are good.
like I want to see all the poop. Like show me where the poop is because
I love that.
that's what I need to fix. I need to come in. I don't need to like gloss over anything that like product marketing has maybe like already done and done really well. I need to come in and like all of the shit that people have like thrown that like, no, 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 don't look over there. Like everything is
Yeah.
fine. That's what I want to come in and like fix because that's where the pain is. That's where the frustration is on multiple levels. And it's for rev ops, it's for leadership, it's for sales reps, it's like for all of it. So like that's what I would say is like don't be afraid to come in and look for the bones or the ghosts in the closet. Like from that perspective, like you need to seek those out and then identify is the like what can you fix really quickly with like the least amount of lift? What are some of the
Yeah.
more longer term projects? And I've told this to a number of people, and it's taken me a while to like actually do it, and I still struggle with it every once in a while with like leadership. But go to leadership and say these are the things that I've identified. I want you to tell me what the priorities are in your
Smart.
mind. Because
Smart.
if I come to you and I say like these are the things that I've identified, but like and this is the priority, they'd be like, well, that's not really what I want. And then give them options as far as like this is a
Smart.
light lift, this is a heavy lift, this is going to take X amount of time for us to complete it but I can get this like knocked out pretty quickly and this is like an easy solution. that's what needs to happen. One of the first roles that I had, I know like we're running close on time, but one of the first roles that I had where I stood up an enablement function from scratch, I did that exact thing. I went to everybody, I was talking to everything. They didn't have a central repository. This is not like a plug for GTM Buddy at all. They didn't have a central repository
We'll
for
take it.
content. Everything was like sitting in Slack and like whatever. And I came in and I was like, well, let me
What
just
is
like,
this?
I didn't have a budget at the present moment, like when I first came in. Let me gather everything together, put it on a free Google site because we were a Google shop, and just have it available like internally for everybody. I will manage all of those things. You don't even have to worry, is this the most updated version of our slide deck? Where's the pitch deck? What's this
Mhm.
asset? Whatever. Like I will do all of that legwork for you. You just come to this one-stop shop basically for everything. It was free. It was quick, like within a month of me starting. And I tied Google Analytics to it, and I was able to track like how many people were viewing it and
Smart.
stuff. Like it was janky, but it got the
Better.
job done. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And I got that quick win in under my belt, and I was able to like then go back to my leadership and be like, great, we did that. What's the next like high hitting project that we can kind of like tackle?
Great advice.
Find those quick wins as quickly as possible, but like don't discount the big initiatives. Like you can't kick them down the road for too long.
Yeah, that's great advice. So what I hear is ask where the poop is,
Mm-hmm.
and then clean up the poop as quick as you can.
Get a pooper scooper, like come in.
Yeah.
This is not how I thought this like podcast was gonna like
That's how
end,
it's
but
ending. It's perfect.
I get that quote from it's like from How I Met Your Mother, and it's like where's the poop, and like that's what I want to look for in an organization, because you know it's somewhere. Somebody is hiding it
Oh yeah,
behind
there's a
some
lot of it.
rug. Yeah, it's all over the place. So like you're either
That's
going
gonna
to
be the
step
title
in
of
it
this
or you can
episode.
clean it up. Like
It's gonna be the title of this episode. Where's the poop?
where's the poop?
With the little shit emoji. It's gonna be perfect.
Please do. Like
I will. I would definitely will. I definitely will. Oh man, what a pleasure, Stephanie. This is awesome.
yeah,
Real honestly, outside of how hilarious that is, it's actually very good advice as well. I think our viewers are gonna really get a lot from just the practicality. That's what people need. How do I actually do it? You
yeah,
can talk high level strategy and these lofty goals and ideas all day long, but if I don't know how to just day one get in and do something, I'm going to be
right.
analysis paralysis, So it's
Yep.
really, really good stuff. Thanks for coming on. I'm going to have
Yeah,
you on again for a different topic, probably on product
please
marketing
do.
and enablement, because
Sure.
it's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Love
And
it.
I'll see you in a couple weeks.
I'm excited.
You too. It's going to be
Yay.
awesome. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye, Stephanie.